All right. Good morning from sunny California. My name is Kunal Agarwal. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Unravel Data. And I want to welcome you all to the Data Team Summit. We have about 2,200 people in attendance here today live from about 1,600 different companies representing every industry, logging in from different parts of the world. So very, very warm welcome to all of you. This conference is designed for data teams, by data teams, so I hope you will get to connect, to share, and to learn best practices from one another. Data has permeated every industry, and it's really becoming a core part of what we do every day, and we'll see a lot of examples of that in today's talks. And if software is eating the world, then we should argue that data teams are running this world. For this keynote, we will look back at what's changed in 2022. We'll address some of the challenges that data teams face today and what's ahead for all of us in the next year. So a couple of important developments have happened in 2022. The first of which is the practice of DataOps is now trending towards becoming a standard. More and more companies that we speak with are starting to adopt best practices, which helps them improve agility, which helps them accelerate their data outcomes. And they may be doing data ops in one way or another, but what we're starting to see is definitely going to rise in its popularity amongst all of the data team members. Because of this, we've seen massive coverage from Gartner and Forbes and every other industry press. Gartner, on its hype cycle, has now moved DataOps further up in the innovation trigger. And as a comparison, it now leads the chief data scientist, the data sharing and information products on that similar hype cycle. What we're also seeing is the trajectory of DataOps is starting to mimic and mirror that of DevOps, which is also a very good sign and a healthy sign showing us that we're all starting to practice data ops within our own companies. Now, with these data analytics workloads moving more and more to the cloud, which post-pandemic has definitely increased even exponential growth that we've seen in certain companies and industries, making sure that these workloads are running in a cost-effective manner is becoming very critical. And as a part of that, FinOps is another practice that we're seeing start to explode for all these large-scale data practices that are running on the cloud. Now, while we've come a long way, we still have a lot of challenges as data teams that we have to take care of. We did a quick survey for all of the members here today, and these are some of the results and some of the top challenges that we all face together. Number one is expensive runaway data pipelines or data jobs. Number two is just lack of visibility into cost and usage, just who's doing what. And both of these are at about 60%. And then about 40%, we've got lack of data quality, lack of proactive alerts, stuff is more reactive. We need to be able to get ahead of those problems. And then last but not the least, just a lack of governance around performance, cost, quality, and all these other challenges that we're seeing over here. The FinOps Foundation had a similar survey that it sent out to its users. And what we see over there is some of the top challenges are accurate forecasting for spend, just being able to allocate your costs appropriately, and enabling automation to make sure that we're spending this cost in the cloud in an effective manner. So to summarize, we've got a lot of problems to tackle as data teams. Number one amongst them is flying blind, just a lack of visibility. So help me understand who's doing what in the environment, what's the performance, what's the cost, what's the resource usage, what's the data quality of all of these different applications and data pipelines that I may be running. Missed SLAs is a problem that goes hand in hand. Now that my data analytics is no longer a science project and my business depends on it, making sure that things are finishing on time every time. Uncontrolled costs, which you just saw, which gave rise to the FinOps practice itself. And a lot of companies and organizations are now starting to truly run a multi-cloud or a multi-platform system. So making sure that you can wrangle all of this complexity in one place is a huge challenge as well. And last but not the least, people are getting pulled into all sorts of support tickets and problems today where they're just spending a lot of time firefighting issues. Now, to add to this long list of problems, what we also have is just a lack of talent and people. Demand has always exceeded supply in our industry. On the right-hand side, you'll see open roles for data analysts, data scientists, data engineers, just everybody in the data team topping the charts on a DICE report just came out about a month ago. And we've seen job postings for data engineers also increase by about 500% in the last 5 years. And there's about 11 million more jobs on the data scientist side that are going to be created globally over the next 3 years. Everybody wants these data teams inside the companies. There's just not enough people to go around. And the people who are there, they all come in a variety of spectrum of expertise that they may possess. And we see that just a lack of talent and expertise inside this data and analytics industry that we're all in. And part of that problem is because of the complexity of these modern data technologies and stacks that we're running with. Now, we've got more choices today to go and run a modern data stack on. And with those choices comes more complexity of how do I put all of these pieces together, which requires a more specialized know-how. So we're also seeing a rise in the role of the full stack data scientist or the full stack data engineer, which means you've got to know everything from application down to how it's actually running on the cloud, which is a pretty hard skill set to get. And last but not the least, with the increasing data workloads and data analytics happening on the cloud, it's getting expensive. A lot of people, about 80% of decision makers said that managing cloud spend is a top challenge. You can understand that, especially given the macroeconomic conditions that we're in. And some of them are actually even boomeranging back to moving their workloads off the cloud onto on-premises again because they figure it's very, very expensive. So you got all these challenges that slow our data team's productivity down. And today's conference is all about learning best practices and what people are doing in their companies. And maybe we can learn a thing or two to go and instill that within our organizations. But let's see what's ahead in 2023. Gartner predicts that a team guided by DataOps practices and tools will be 10 times more productive than teams that do not use DataOps. That's how central DataOps is becoming to our data outcomes. And to instill DataOps, one of the foundational pieces is data observability. Gartner defines data observability as observing all of those challenges that we saw in the previous slides and having a view and understanding of what's happening with the data sets itself, observing what's happening with the data pipelines, the data applications, the data products, really the data outcomes we're all trying to generate out of this data set, understanding where these applications and these data sets are actually running, so observing data infrastructure, and what usage is happening, so observing data teams and data users on top of it. And it's not just Gartner. We're seeing data observability as becoming a standard practice, and a lot of different leaders and analysts, who we will hear from in a little bit as well, are now putting data observability at the center of an efficient data ops practice. Last but not the least, because we have such a spectrum of expertise in the data ecosystem, having AI enable self-service so that non-experts can also get unstuck and provide agility to their organizations. An example of this is how AI is now powering insights and recommendations for making sure your SLAs are being met, that you're able to uncover if there are any bottlenecks or problems with your data pipelines, understanding how you can actually reduce the cost of running your applications on any particular cloud, or improving the quality of these data outcomes itself. And this means that you don't have to be an expert in every system or every piece of your data ecosystem. And you can rely on machines to actually solve some of those problems and be an expert at having great data outcomes. Companies that have adopted these automated or good data ops practices, what we've seen in them is they now have more predictable spend. They're able to reduce some of their cloud footprint by 24 to 37%. They've increased their productivity by over 75% through automation because they're not spending a lot of time doing mundane tasks. And we've also seen that they're now able to rely on their data applications and guarantee an upwards of 98% SLA because of adopting some of these best data ops practices itself. So I'm super excited to kick off this day today. And we're first going to start off with a panel discussion to dig into the state of data ops, the data teams, with Sanjeev Mohan and Benjamin Rogojan.